Just by way of introduction, I wanted to say a few words about what SPINNR is and why it exists and why it's perhaps different to tools you might have seen, heard about, or used personally. So at SPINNR, we believe that a website is a critical business asset that actually increases the value of the business. And for this reason, we believe that websites should be built by professionals and using professional tools and not DIY tools. So at SPINNR, what we're about is we're trying to solve a bigger problem, not just the design, build, launch problem, which a majority of other platforms solve, but rather the entire website lifecycle, ongoing past launch and into the full life of the website. So SPINNR is a purpose-built platform for professional web developers and agencies. A few of the key differentiators are SPINNR includes no proprietary code, there's no platform lock-in, it has no limitations for pro web developers. It is also easy to use for your customers, which is important because we need to bridge the gap between developers' technical skills and the non-technical end users that are going to manage the website moving forward, quite possibly. It does work with multiple platforms, but our focus is on WordPress, WordPress being the most popular CMS platform in the world still, and so our focus is currently on WordPress, but does work with multiple platforms. SPINNR includes a centralized library of standard default components that can be shared across many websites. And you can also create and save your own custom components and share those across the websites you build for your customers. So once you build something once, we believe in reusing those components and thereby making building new websites faster and faster. The more components you've got, the faster it is to build websites. SPINNR includes something called brand lock technology, which is essentially, we'll talk about it a bit more later, but it's basically the idea that the styling of the website, as in the brand, it's set up using a brand style guide, and then every component that you insert into the canvas, into the editing, or automatically takes on that styling. So no inline styling. It's all like a corporate. It's an enterprise level thinking about the brand styling, and also means that end users then don't go messing about the customer's brand. It is a multi-website management system, so beyond just a web builder, it is also a system that holds and manages all of the customers or all of your customers' websites, and it enables a whole range of functionality around that, which we'll talk about later. And the idea of SPINNR is that technically you should not rebuild your website or your customer's website over and over again every few years, but rather you can, because the style, you can restyle it, you can rebrand it without, and you can change the layouts and the components around without having to start from scratch every time. So just quickly, the primary benefits we have seen in our own agency with SPINNR is about a 50 to 70% faster build time, about 50% time saved in management. So in managing the project, the number of decisions that need to be made has been drastically reduced, and a huge 80% reduction in the time we spent in quality controlling the end result. And that is a significant reason why websites are more profitable to build with SPINNR. And so therefore, the 35% profit increase on web builds that we have seen across the board. These are general numbers, and your numbers may very well be higher. So for our customers, what we've seen is that they're able to adapt to market changes very easily. The website becomes more of an asset and much easier to move and grow with the business's changing needs, and also the market changes, and therefore becomes a much more valuable asset to the business, and a big reduction in related costs. Less management, less training and skill required in operating that website. Just referring back again to things like the brand lock, which means that people who are perhaps less technologically inclined can also operate the website safely and easily. So the quick overview of how Spinner thinks about websites. Essentially, we've separated the website into three main parts: the wireframe or layout, the brand or styling, and the content. So the process is quickly prototype or build a functional wireframe or layout of the site, then to apply to that the brand styling using the brand guide, which automatically styles the entire website, and then to enter and edit the content. And the order of these is not technically set, so you can also set up the styling first and then create the wireframe or layout. And because it's a live wireframing, essentially the wireframing is also building the website. And then the key aspect of it is you save and reuse the styling, the components, the pages, or even whole sites, and just with minimal changes you can build new sites and many more sites. That's what significantly reduces the future build time and again increases the profitability for you or your agency. Okay, so let's get into it. Spinner is a SaaS platform that is external to WordPress, and it connects to WordPress using a lightweight theme. You can download the theme from the Spinner website and then install it on WordPress by uploading the file and installing it. Once the theme is installed, it needs to be activated, and you can activate it from straight after installation or from the themes page. Once it is activated, you need to run the setup process that connects Spinner to this instance of WordPress, and you do that by running the setup process and then either logging in with an existing account or signing up for a new account. You only have to sign up for a Spinner account once, and then any subsequent sites you can just use your existing login. When you create an account, you just need to verify your email address and copy the verification code in. Once that is confirmed, you will need to just set up your company details, and if you have an existing login, your company details will be automatically populated. You only have to do that once as well. Each time you set up a project, you just need to give the project a name and an optional description so that it can be differentiated in Spinner. Once you've set up the project, you need to provide WordPress credentials for your user account to connect to WordPress. Then next, you can choose from one of the available website templates in Spinner, or you can skip that part and just set up a blank website. So once that's done, your API key is generated and you're ready to use Spinner. If you've seen the introduction video, you'll know that Spinner has multiple components, and one of those is the site styling. The site styling is set up using the brand style guide, which you can access from the Spinner menu in the theme. And the brand style guide essentially includes all the styling elements of a website, such as grid, spacing, fonts, headings, etc. And you can set up different screen size settings for each of those, such as mobile and tablet versions for the various styling sections. And certain sections do give you the ability to add additional definitions, such as, for example, in images, and you can just click the plus button, set up an additional image type definition. And then these shortcuts essentially work in the Spinner editor to streamline setting up the site. Spinner includes a range of default color type definitions, but you can also add unlimited custom colors as well. The color definitions are then used to keep the site consistent when using the editor. Spinner uses the idea of sections. Sections are essentially a collection of simpler components. Spinner allows the creation of section themes, which allows you to style sections by defining a range of settings and then saving them as a theme and then just applying it one click essentially to a section in the editor. Once the brand guide has been set up, you have to save and push those changes to WordPress. This compiles the JavaScript and CSS and minifies it and then saves it into WordPress. There's also the option of saving all the settings as a template or applying a saved template to the brand guide, essentially immediately changing the styling of the website. To edit pages in Spinner, just add a page to WordPress as normal and use the Edit in Spinner button to launch the Spinner editor. In Spinner, the editor we call the canvas, and the canvas is used to edit the layout and the content of the page. To get started, you can add a section which opens the component library, and you can add blank sections with no components or content but just layouts, or you can add full complete page templates or various components from a range of categories. The Spinner default library includes hundreds of components in common layouts. You can also create and save your own components, which will then appear in the library only for your project or your company as you choose, but of course not shared with the common library. So if you insert a plain section, you can then populate that with what we call basic components. And basic components are typically things like images, paragraphs, headings, cards, and that sort of buttons, that sort of thing. These are basic elements, and they have a range of different properties that you can configure before you insert them, and then you just insert them into your section. And you can build out your component this way. The plus buttons around the various elements allow you to insert further elements before or after that component, that element. Anything that allows you to edit text, you can just click on and use the inline text editor to make those edits. Then you can continue to add new sections to build out the page layout completely. In the components, you can see the highlight of the various structural parts of those components, and on the left hand side will be the properties of whatever section of the component you're selecting. So in this case, for example, an image. The images are connected to the WordPress media library. In this case, this site doesn't have any images yet, it's a blank site, but you can upload your own images and they'll be pushed into the WordPress media library. You can continue inserting components until your page is ready. Whatever you select influences both the options on the left-hand side menu and as to what operations you can do with that element. So in this case, you can select a section and delete it, but if you are selecting just something lower in the hierarchy, you can use the up button to move up in the HTML structure. And this structure view is particularly helpful in trying to understand or to navigate to the correct element. Let's insert a full page component so we can see what a complete page looks like. And so you can see that all of those various components and sections have been populated into a complete page here. Now you can select one of the elements and move its order around within those sections. Both sections and elements inside a section can be moved, but elements will never move out of their own section. You can also duplicate sections and then edit individual elements of those sections or each of those sections separately. You can delete only certain elements. So in this case, you can see that where the very lowest element was deleted, it didn't affect the parent element. So sometimes you have to navigate up to the parent element. It's all about selecting the right element in the structure, and that's what the structure view is particularly useful for. Now on the left hand side, once you've selected a particular component or element, you can edit all the various stylings and functions and properties of that element as defined by the brand guide. As an example of how the brand guide controls the brand integrity, if you select let's say heading, in the colors properties, you will see that only the defined colors exist. So a user cannot just randomly go and change the color of something that doesn't fit with the definitions. So for example, if we want to change it, you can choose one of the predefined colors or the default of whatever that section is set up to be, which applies to various aspects of it. So whether it be the font itself or the background, as well as this, the section theming that we looked at in the brand guide setup part. You can change the theme of a section by choosing from one of the defined section themes, for example, the dark theme, and it automatically changes everything that has been defined about that section theme, and with just one click. And you can just apply that to other sections very quickly. So if you have some section definitions, you can, for example, create alternating color-themed sections on a page and things like that very quickly. So the brand guide drives what functionality is available so that end users' actions don't impact the brand integrity of the site. The structure view can be used to jump to any particular element, and the edit HTML allows you to directly input or edit the code. So there's no limitations in what can be done here, and we believe in really allowing the developer to have full control over the site. So let's just change just one of these sections slightly, and then we can save this changed section as a new component. The structure view can be moved around or closed as needed. In the SPINNR menu, there are a number of functionalities and settings that control how SPINNR behaves for each user. For example, the advanced mode is really the developer mode, and when that's turned off, the system operates in basic mode with a much more limited set of properties and functions available to the end user, and this is actually configurable. Then you can also turn on breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs will then show the structure of the element selected. This is very helpful in finding the right element and understanding the structuring as well. Exploded view is also a really useful function that places some spacing around each element so that you can find exactly the right piece in the structure. Visually clear how the structure is built and what you are selecting. There is a dark theme for those that prefer to work in a dark theme interface. And there's also an easy link to the SPINNR help and documentation. In the canvas, it is also possible to switch various defined viewports such as mobile, tablet, desktop, and full screen. And this actually makes it possible to edit in those sizes. Now, whatever edits you make in those sizes will apply to that screen sizing or viewport size. There's also scaling settings for easier visualization of the canvas. Now, once all the editing is done in the canvas, you have to push those changes into WordPress. And there are two options for that, either pushing straight away or pushing at a specified date and time. This is very useful for content that is to be published at a specific future time. When you're ready to publish, just press OK, and this then transfers the edits into WordPress itself. And we can see that all of our edits are now on the site. Okay, so to demonstrate how the brand style guide affects the page, let's make a quick change to our existing styling here. Easiest one will be just to change a color. So let's change the accent color of our current website to something obviously different. Of course, we have to save and push that so it gets compiled and pushed back to our WordPress instance. And let's refresh the page. We can see that everything that used our previously blue accent color is now red. And this will apply to the entire site. So it's very quick to rebrand or make styling changes to the website. Also in the SPINNR menu, we can find headers, which of course will appear on every page, and so we edit these separately from the page editor in Canvas. That's under the headers section under the SPINNR menu, and there's the default header, or you can create your own. The same thing applies to footers and also to mobile menu versions. Okay, so you edit the headers and footers and mobile menus the same way as you do edit pages. Just click Edit in SPINNR and it comes up in the canvas for editing in exactly the same way. One thing to note is that certain components, such as dynamic components, have a settings option, and this one, for example, utilizes the WordPress menu setup. So it pulls the menus that you set up in WordPress, and you can utilize them here in the Canvas editor. Once you've made changes to your header or footer, just publish it the same way as you would any other WordPress page or post. SPINNR is a multi-website management system. So by going to your company page from the SPINNR menu in the theme, and it is also possible to get to this from any of the pages, just delete everything past the base URL, and you can get to the same page in basically what is the SPINNR admin panel. And in your company page, you can see your company details as well as a list of all your projects against that company. You can manage your projects and you'll see all the pages, including the header and footer, as well as a range of other settings. You can go to the brand style guide from here, and in the domains and credentials, you can see the users that have been set up, new users, add their WordPress credentials, and change the page URL or access your API key. So you need to set the site up again. You don't want to go through the setup wizard because it already is an existing site. You can just grab the API key from here and enter it into the SPINNR theme in the settings. Your company's components that you've created and saved are all in the components section and can be managed from there, as well as groupings and categories for when you create and save new components in from the canvas. Let's have a look at that by creating just a category and a group. Both groups and categories can either be allocated to all projects, which means they'll be available in every project under your company, or to specific projects, which means they'll only be available in those projects. In a previous part of the demo, I modified one of the components on this page, and let's just save that component this time by clicking the Save as Component button. Make sure the right section is selected. Then just give it a name and a description if you like. Also choose whether it is visible to just this project or the whole of the company, and as well as selecting the group in the groups and categories that component should appear in. And once that is saved, we will see in our admin panel that it's now appearing in the component section. The thumbnail does take a little while to generate. You can edit a component in Canvas just like you would a page. So if you want to make edits to this component, you can do, and then just save it and it will apply from that point forward every time you insert that component. It's also possible to duplicate a component and edit it from here, and also to change the settings of a component. So if you want to change the previously selected settings, whether it applies to a specific project or multiple projects, you can edit that there. There's also the list of projects listed under your projects, and as well as the companies that you're a part of. You can be part of multiple companies. So for example, if your client has a SPINNR account, they can invite you to be part of that company and then manage or edit their projects from there. I hope you found this quick run through informative, and for more details on various features and functions, check out some of our other videos.